Hey everybody, welcome to Behind the Pulpit for October the 13th, 2025. We are back. We're back at it. Thank you for all of you that survived the non-nor'easter that happened this weekend. The Weather Channel fails us again, and yet, here we are. I am joined by my esteemed colleague, Pastor Dave, over there, rocking it. And we have a very, there he is. Look at that, man. Rocking it over there.
Just so you know, Bob's been warning me about this nor'easter since like Thursday at noon.
I just asked the
question. I'm
question.
getting texts from him. He wants to talk about it. I think he called a meeting.
I changed my
Bob,
flight because of Bob's warning.
How bad is this going to be?
You changed your flight because of United's warning. Don't blame me for that. United said you might want to change your flight.
He's like, I'm over here Saturday morning. Should I put up the flood shields? I'm like, Bob, I think we're going to be all right, man. It ended up being like 0.3 inches of rain.
What are you talking about? You told me
you had the generators
I already got my generator gassed up. I'm ready to go.
I did get 10 gallons.
Having flashbacks to Sandy.
I did. I was ready. Because of you.
That's
You freaked me out.
Welcome to Behind the Pulpit,
I warned
everyone.
you about that. You warned me about the drones. We keep apprised in all the necessary things.
All right.
We in the middle here. We have my friend Chris. Chris is Chris, why don't you tell folks about who you are and why you're here and what's your thoughts on New Jersey so far?
My thoughts on New Jersey so far. I'm Chris Tenny. I originally from Colorado. Have been doing ministry in San Jose, California since 2009. Since 2 weeks after we graduated from Denver Seminary.
Kind of wandered into New Jersey and thought, here's a good church, found us on the internet.
Previously was a radio frequency engineer for T-Mobile, so Bob used to call me T-Mobes.
You're still on my phone as mobile, just so you know.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about going back to T-Mobile. I mean, like service carrier, not otherwise. But anyway, wife is Cassandra, and two boys, Calvin and Archer, who are 14 and 10. I am a pastor at Will Glen Bible Church in San Jose.
At the capital of Silicon Valley.
Yeah, we're really right in the middle of the, tech utopia, let's call it.
I've heard of that. So go ahead, Tim.
So you grew up in Colorado, and you now reside in San Jose. So as someone who is very interested in the subject, avalanche or sharks?
Oh, Avalanche. I mean,
good for you.
Yeah.
Tim is he's a big hockey fan.
At least the Avalanche have won a few times.
That's true.
I think the only time I've seen an NHL hockey game was when you got tickets to go see the Avalanche, and I went with you at the Pepsi Center.
I think the Sharks are the Browns of the NHL.
They had some good prospects, but they were really good for a while, but didn't win the cup.
Yeah, they never.
And then now they're just bad.
No, I did almost become a San Francisco Giants fan. When the first time I went to AT&T Park, or that's not called that anymore.
It's a fun park, though.
It's a great park. I mean, they went on a great run.
Barry Bonds.
And the Rockies have been terrible forever, except the 1 year when we were in school. But.
I found out that the other day I saw the Somerset Patriots play the Hartford Yard Goats, and the Yard Goats are actually...
The Yard Goats, yes.
They are a minor league team for the Colorado Rockies. So it was kind of like the Yankees played the Rockies.
So essentially every single person on the Yard Goats...
The Somerset Patriots are a minor league team for the Yankees.
That's a very intimidating mascot.
Every single person on the Yard Goats probably wakes up hoping they get traded.
So Chris is here. Chris and I went to seminary together at Denver Seminary, if you didn't pick up on that. And he's doing a training at the Center consulting group that we work with. So he made his way across the country to go and see the Center in Pennsylvania starting tomorrow, right?
Yes. Yep,
You're going to accelerate your leadership.
That's right. Yep.
Solve all the world's problems.
Maybe just my congregations.
Okay.
Maybe
we'll have you back next week to report.
Or maybe they'll fix me as a leader. That's what.
Well, very good. They fixed us to some extent, I think. Well, so we thought here at the beginning, before we dive into our next segment, would be to talk a little bit about. Chris and I went to Denver. Dave went to Dallas. We might have a little Denver and Dallas competition here, and Chris had some stories from back in the day, since Chris knew me before I was married and here and all of that.
Yeah.
So, what questions do you have for Chris, Dave?
Well, what made you choose to go to Denver Seminary?
It was local.
Local.
That's one. Two, I think the primary reason was when I first became a Christian. That's 1999. Case for Christ, I think, would recently been published. And
Lee Strobel.
that was one of the first books I read after I became a Christian, and Craig Blomberg was in it, and he taught at Denver. And then there was a college ministry that I got connected with, and the leader of that ministry went to Denver. So all of my associations with Denver were positive.
Very nice.
So
Craig
I
Blomberg, a
chose
friend of the Underground Sessions podcast, we had him on to talk about
Yeah.
eschatology last year with Daryl Bach from Dallas.
There was a
very fun
smackdown.
episode.
Big friends of the
Yeah,
channel.
Yeah.
It was, yes. Having both of them on at the same time was lots of
Oh, I'm sure.
academic laughter, we'll put it that way.
And they've known each other a long time, too.
Yeah,
They're very cordial.
They
Yeah.
were pretty amicable with each other
Yeah.
there.
Oh, yeah.
What questions do you have for Dave about Dallas?
Oh boy.
I don't know. Why did you choose to go to Dallas?
Oh, there we go.
You know, I went to Philadelphia College of Bible, and a lot of my professors had gone to Dallas and spoke very highly of it. This was back in the day, so I think for me it was a place to go and get some of the best Greek training. Dan Wallace was the professor there, and
okay.
I think at that time Daryl Bach was getting more and more well known, and I wanted to study this thing called progressive dispensationalism and kind of think differently about the church and eschatology. So I wanted to be exposed to that. And then there was like a couple Mount Rushmore names for me. So there was some wonderful influences in my life that were professors there, and I got a chance to take them, like Howard Hendricks and guys like that. So it was a good experience. I enjoyed my time in Dallas. Julie and I both enjoyed living in Texas, but New Jersey is where we're from, so we're back home now. Yeah.
There you go. We went to the Colson Center National Conference in Dallas last year or the year before, and Dave took me to the seminary campus, so I got the full tour of the Dallas experience. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I know you were very impressed.
I was.
Wasn't quite exactly the picturesque Rocky Mountains in the background like
the
Denver.
Denver campus is nice. I did pop by when I was in there in June. So anyway, well, Chris, we're glad you're here. Chris is going to participate in our podcast in all of its glory. And speaking of which, Behind the Pulpit is brought to you today by the Little Footprints Pie fundraiser, as well as the Little Footprints substitute plea. There we go. You can go back to the pie fundraiser. So Little Footprints is doing a fundraiser right now. Hey, this is what I always say about these food fundraisers. You got to eat. You got to get some pies for Thanksgiving. They will be you order them by the end of the month, and you'll get them in time for Thanksgiving by November the 20th. And you'll help support our wonderful preschool here at Little Footprints. And they are sponsoring the show today so that they can get a big shout out. Also, if you have some skill sets to serve in a substitute capacity, there are some substitutes and assistants needed still for this school year. So if you want to love I'll read the bottom here. If you love Jesus and his precious children, then we need you. Come and be a part of a ministry that is so rewarding and far-reaching. So there you go. That's our first sponsor for the show today.
All proceeds will go to the preschool. They're sponsoring us, but their fundraiser is sponsoring them. Just so
that's true. Yeah, it's true. That's true. We are not. We are not the derivative of the fundraiser. Good clarification.
Just
Tim.
want to make sure everyone.
And
We're not-
you can get the pies just in time for Thanksgiving.
Yes.
There's a timing thing there.
Yes.
Not only do you have to buy the food anyway, you definitely need a pie for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, who's going to have Thanksgiving without a pie? That's just, would you go to Thanksgiving without a pie at your house?
No way, Jose.
There you go. Would you? You would not have a pie at your house?
No.
Well, that's because
we
you're from
probably
California.
wouldn't.
My goodness. All right.
Sorry.
Some avocado toast for after.
Not a lot of
Avocado pie for the
turkey.
No, my wife wants cheese for dessert.
Okay.
Just cheese.
Not- yeah, like nice cheese.
Some, like,
we got a
grapes?
fromagerie near the family cabin.
Okay. Well, we call that an hors d'oeuvre, not a dessert.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah, well,
we
you
need to
know.
have a talk with your wife.
When in Rome. Or something.
I guess, something like that. All right, now we've come to our world-famous segment that we come to every week, In the News. All right, Pastor Dave, what news story? Is there any news stories that caught your eye this week that we should talk about? Anything that you were texting me back and forth? What should we talk about today?
The breaking news story is that after over 2 years, finally, the rest of the Israeli hostages have been returned back to their families. There was a early morning headline that I woke up to this morning. Very glad to hear this actually went through. I think the peace treaty looks like it's held, at least so far, phase 1. I think they were supposed to return 20 live prisoners, and they did. And then there were some other human remains that were part of this particular peace treaty as well that have not totally been returned yet, but they're still supposedly working on that. Bibi made a speech. Trump made a speech this morning. It wasn't morning for them. It was like 2 p.m. in Israel. But looks like this is actually happening. There is actually a ceasefire that is kind of sticking between Israel and Hamas right now. And we're all thankful that perhaps this will be the end to this, what has been a horrific war in so many different ways. And there's so many side stories to talk about here. But today, I think we can all rejoice because there's been some families that have been reunited after, looks like 738 days of captivity. So we thank the Lord for that. That's a pretty big news story. I don't know that we get to have a news story bigger than that like this whole year. That's a huge thing.
So it's just like a mic drop news story.
I mean, I haven't seen this kind of thing in my whole life. I don't think there was a
That's
hostage situation back in the 80s, right? But this was like, wow, we got to see this. This is happening, and
we can hopefully pray that all this will go by the wayside, right? We'll have some peace.
We are praying for that. Yeah. So that's a big news story.
Good.
I don't know how we can top that. That's
okay. Well, why don't we top it? Why don't we go lower? Let's see if we can go to a lower news story.
What's a little bit less?
Chris, you're from Silicon Valley. I see a ton of news about like the AI and tech stuff. What's going on in Silicon Valley in the news? What are we missing? What's coming from Silicon Valley to the rest of the world?
I don't know how much I really have followed some of the news. I've seen that there's a lot of talk about the difference between AI, which is what most of us have experienced with, say, ChatGPT, versus AGI, artificial general intelligence, which would be more sci-fi type level. There is talk that could be achievable within 5 years, something where it may be very difficult for ordinary people to distinguish talking with an AI chatbot, for instance, from a real person. So there's that. There's a bunch of funding stuff and always speculation about whether or not this bubble is going to pop financially from Wall Street's point of view.
Yes, that's true. Are we on the big AI tech bubble?
I think the bigger, broader concern that I hear on the street level is where's all the power going to come from? Because AI is a massive
you mean like literally
suck.
the electricity.
Yes, and I don't think people realize how much our utility bills in San Jose are going to go up as a result of the massive amount of consumption. I think I forgot the statistic, but the amount of energy being consumed to power all of this stuff in San Jose is mind-boggling in comparison to what your ordinary person is using. So,
wow.
So when you push that button, just know I pay more for
That's
my
right.
utilities.
Push the button. Just know Chris may have a blackout and not be able to take a shower. So
Yeah.
That's the news story.
Interesting.
Well, why don't you tell you had that interesting experience when you went to Atlanta and you had the self-driving car that came and picked you up from a few months ago.
Just to be clear, I did not get in, but I saw them.
But I'm sure they have a bunch of those in San Jose and San Francisco. You have people
not
driving
so
around
much
with
in San Jose, but definitely in San Francisco. And I've basically heard that there's just interesting byproducts for these types of things, and I've been a part of multiple panels, but I mean as an audience member of talking with,
not sitting on the panel, but listening to the panel,
but of theologians and Christian thinkers trying to talk about like theologically how do we process all this stuff. But there's also just the nitty gritty of like basic. Somebody told me last week, if you're in San Francisco, you know that if you see a Waymo, you can cut them off because they'll always stop. And that's an interesting. What does that do to human behavior when we all know that there's a white car with lots of cameras that you can just cut off whenever you want?
Very true. Now you were saying we always try to
Didn't know that.
some level.
Well, there's no Waymos around here, but
Yeah, and also, Jay, like you could just cross the street right in front of the car, and the car's going to stop because it's programmed to stop. I don't know if So there's all kinds of.
There you go.
But it's just interesting the types of human behaviors that are a byproduct of these things being out there and people knowing what they are programmed to do and not do.
You know what? I was also thinking about human behavior regarding AI, and like it's kind of rude to cut a car off, but
Yes.
we tend to think, well, there's nobody in the car, so I'm allowed to treat a machine that way.
Yep.
But I think similarly, there's some iterations with even ChatGPT. I can type something into some sort of large language model and kind of be rude in a way that shouldn't bother me because it's just a machine, but it is a way I'm sort of customizing, and I'm getting used to talking like this to another entity, right? And that's perhaps going to affect the way I might talk to another human being too, because I'm used to this. Like,
well, you were also
so
saying,
we're going to become ruder drivers, and we're going to
There you
become
go.
more jerky texters. That's my takeaway
you were also
from this.
talking about, from a worldview perspective, the philosophical underpinnings of some of this is getting at the idea of transhumanism.
Yes.
Could you define that really quickly and talk about how you've been talking about that with your people out in Silicon Valley?
I would say transhumanism, in a nutshell, is essentially. I think they would talk about it as the next stage of human evolution. And that in order to achieve the next stage of human evolution and is going to require a technological enhancement of what it means to be human. We're going to have to become another order of being. And I think in a way it's kind of pushing on, even from a Christian point of view, what glory is for, our ultimate transformation, right? So I think us talking about eschatology, for personal eschatology with respect to what our destiny is, and our ultimate glorification is going to be important to speak into. That I think that's one component of it. But most of technology, at the end of the day, is pushing, and a lot of other cultural issues, I think, is all really hinging on our anthropology. What does it mean to be human?
That's
What
true.
is our created intent? What's our fallen, what's our redemption and glory look like for us? And I think technology is really pushing on those points in multiple fronts. But so transhumanism is we will, I have a defibrillator installed on my chest because of heart disease I had a few years ago. And so on one hand, I'm now a cyborg. I'm Iron Man.
There's the title of the show right there. I am Iron Man.
Yeah. So on the one hand, the technology is being used for therapy in a good way, but we're talking about it being likely in the future to have, a enhanced heart installed that would give me abilities I never had before. And there are many in Silicon Valley, like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, others, who are investing billions investing in essentially some kind of promise of eternal life through technology or a next stage of human evolution, because they truly believe if we don't do it, the human race is going to become extinct. And we have to do this. So Peter Thiel also recently, I think, had an interview with the New York Times columnist Ross Douthat.
Russ Douthat. Yeah.
Douthat? Okay. Anyway.
Well, this is in the news, Pastor Dave.
It's a lot of.
You might be a cyborg someday.
Maybe. So, yeah. So I think that's a big challenge, and I'm trying to speak to some of that with respect to it relates to Christology. If you think about Christology and some of the early heresies revolving around Christology, one of them being Eutychianism, where
whoa.
No,
Let's spell that and then define it.
Okay, so Eutychianism was
Eutychus.
Which superhero did you do that for the Articles of Faith discussion?
I totally did the same thing. You use superheroes as analogies for Christology? Oh, yeah, totally.
For the heresies. For the heresies,
of course. Yes,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah, which one would you do?
Oh, he doesn't remember.
I'm looking at my PowerPoint. You keep talking.
Keep talking. He's going to.
So Eutychianism is that the divine and human natures in the person of Christ were merged, And the problem with that is then he is becoming a completely new kind of being, in a way, kind of a Superman, I guess. And if you think about a lot of sci-fi movies that play out the scenario of having a superhuman, apart from Superman, who's always good and all that, except for maybe in more recent ones.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, okay, yeah. Spider-Man would be a good, where he becomes a new kind of being
because he's
not a spider and he's not a man. He's a
he's a
new
Spider-Man.
thing.
Yeah.
He's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
I thought it was Spider-Man, but I had to just maybe double check there.
Yeah. The point is, I think transhumanism, and the lessons learned from that particular debate.
So what you're saying is you got a lot of Eutychians out in your church.
I don't have a lot of Eutychians, I don't think, because I think most people, most Christians are not familiar with all of these heresies and why they're important.
Functional Eutychians.
But I would just read Justin Holcomb's book, Know the Heretics.
All right. There you go.
Nice
book recommendation. There we go.
That's
all right. Now what? Nice. Yeah. Any final thoughts here on the on this? This is mind blowing right now.
So just to be clear, Eutychianism was a heresy about Jesus.
Darn it, I
but what you're saying is that actually the future of the transhumanist movement is making a similar mistake.
I think so.
Just to be clear what we're talking about theologically. You're saying that instead of hoping in the glory and the promises of Christ that we have for a future and resurrection and where we're headed, that we might come up with our own plan. And it's going to disappoint. This is not going to save you. It's going to be an idol. It's going to... Elon Musk is not going to give you the same kind of caliber hope that the everlasting promise of Jesus Christ will give you.
In a way trying to create a new Christ, right? Through...
Yep.
It is a type of false gospel.
I think so. Yeah.
I think
so.
Would you heard it here first, folks.
There may be some connections. Would you agree, Dave?
I do.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's his I agree face right there.
Oh.
I like it. I've never thought of this before. I never thought of transhumanism and how that might connect with early church Christological heresies, but now I'm thinking.
There you go. Boom. All right. So that brings us to the end of In the News, and that brings us to our second sponsor of the program today. This episode of Behind the Pulpit is brought to you by the Men's Breakfast.
The
Yum.
beans are back.
The beans are back, and I think they're going to wreak some havoc on October the 25th later on in the day. But if you want to come out for the Men's Breakfast, it's going to be Saturday, October the 25th, 7:30 to 9 a.m. right down here in Fellowship Hall. Do we got a speaker, Pastor Dave, for this this shindig right here?
We're putting together a panel, and the theme, I believe, is going to be around Christianity and athletics. More to come, but it's going to be a very good breakfast.
There you go. But you'll have a nice protein-filled breakfast and be able to go out and perform some athletics after this Men's Breakfast event. So, Behind the Pulpit, Men's Breakfast, we're friends. Thank you for sponsoring us today. And that brings us to our even more world-famous segment, The Great Book War. Tim is fired up over there. Chris is going to participate today. And I heard we had some updates right here, Tim, about the Great Book War.
We do. So
and you had some critics who were not who said you were not properly reporting the results of this book war. So correct yourself.
Let me start off like this. I need to issue a public apology to the listeners and fans of Behind the Pulpit. I said last week that I was going to have a section on the form where you would write your name so that we can keep all the tallies, and then we could have, at the end of the season, a fan of the year. Monday got busy. I totally oversaw it, and it never happened. And I had a lot of you be like, hey, what's the deal? I want to be fan of the year. So we will be starting this week. I'll make sure to get
in. You're saying the fans chased you down and shamed you. They shamed you.
They love the show so much. They're such big fans that they chased me down. And I really appreciate it.
Now you know how to get your way, folks.
Chase down the producer. So here is the current outlook of the scoreboard. Pastor Dave in a commanding
and looks like the end of the Yankee season right there.
Lead. And I'll tell you what, there seems to be no end in sight to the onslaught that is the victories by Pastor Dave, unless it's this week, and it is Pastor Bob.
Woo! Storm it back, Pastor Dave.
It's not like being black, Pastor Bob.
Just drop Vody's name and you win.
By one vote.
By how many?
Another one that came down to the wire. You still got a lot of votes
for the works of John Owen, though, Pastor Dave.
Versus the works of John Owen. Wow, that's.
Can you believe it was that close? I can, because Pastor Dave is paying off the voters.
All right. Well,
I had a
let's see.
feeling I was going to lose this week. That's such a catchy title.
3-1
Yeah.
All right. Well,
is the new score.
I don't blame you guys. But you need to read it, though. It's not fair for you just to vote and not read it. You got to read it.
That's true.
All right. So let's go around the horn. Pastor Dave, since you lost, you get to go first today with your recommendation.
Okay. So
Chris has a recommendation too. So maybe you can throw him in the mix here too. We'll see if you.
All right.
We have a third party voting this
From the
week.
looks of it, the roles are reversed this week, so we'll see.
Crossway Publishers has a book by Frank Turek and Stormin Norm Geisler called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. I'm studying this book because the Foundation's first homeschool co-op program that meets here at Millington Baptist Church on Wednesdays asked me to do a guest lecture on a chapter from this book, and it's all about, do we have early testimony about Jesus? So I get to do chapter 9. Frank Turek is a Christian apologist. He also does a lot of work on college campuses. He was super close with Charlie Kirk. He was like one of the speakers at that big memorial service. He was actually in the SUV when they were going to the hospital. They were very tight. And so he's done a lot of work on some of the major questions of apologetics, and I've enjoyed his sort of summary. Norm Geisler is a classic old Dallas Seminary guy, and this is a pretty good book. If you're looking for like an accessible treatise on the popular level apologetics questions that are out there, this is a book for you. It's got some stuff in the beginning about creation, design, then it's got some questions about evil, Hitler. There's a question on Mother Teresa versus Hitler, because how could you ever talk about evil without also talking about Hitler? Because it's like mandatory. There's a question about miracles. Then there's the gospel stuff that I'm dealing
doing
with.
chapter 11. What's chapter 11 again?
The top 10 reasons we know that the New Testament writers told the truth.
That's right.
Chapter
Boom. There we
11.
go.
So I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. Frank Turek. Check it out, and I hope that this will be a blessing to you. I'm enjoying it.
All right, so that's the first submission. We have a third party. We have a Ross Perot right here, a third party candidate coming in this week for the book work. Chris, what would you recommend?
I'm going to recommend
It's going to mess up the voting this week.
The Expectation Gap by Pastor Steve Cuss.
Steve who? Steve Cuss?
C-U-S-S.
Does he cuss?
S.
Not to be concerned
Wow.
with Steve, bad word.
So it's a spiritual guide exploring how to bridge gaps between beliefs about God and actual experience, offering tools to manage anxiety, quiet inner criticism, and deepen spiritual connection. That's the brief. I've read the book multiple times because it's asked a lot of really great reflective questions about what's going on in your heart, and we've used it as a staff as well to and he kind of explores 3 gaps, one being our experience of God's love for us, 2 being our experience of God's presence, and 3rd being that we think we ought to be better by now. Like, I've been a Christian, shouldn't I be more mature at this point? And I just think it's been very deeply formative, and I highly recommend it, especially if you struggle with anxiety or emotional reactivity. I think his tools integrated with the gospel are super, super beneficial. So highly recommend it.
Boom. There you go.
It's short too. It's like this big.
Hey, those of you out there that like short books, this is it right here. Because my submission this week is not a short book. I brought the big book this week. Check that out right there. Boom. My submission in honor of Chris is Christian Theology by Millard Erickson. This was one of my favorite systematics when I was in seminary. A good slightly reformed Baptist theologian. Millard Erickson taught at Western Seminary for a bit. He also taught down at the school at Baylor, I believe. I'm forgetting the name of that school down there. But Truett Theological Seminary. Thank you so much. Great. If you really want, and speaking of also, you got your systematic theology class you're doing on Sunday mornings. If you want a really good systematic theology, this is one of my favorites, Millard Erickson right here. He covers all the major doctrines, and he does a good job of weaving in some of the philosophical theology as well as the core doctrines in here, and giving a good overview of it all. So, Millard Erickson, Christian Theology. That's my submission for for systematics this week. And as always, we recommend you decide. The Great Book War.
Get out to the polls, people. And this time,
Early voting begins today,
Right
so make
now.
sure you get out to the polls right now.
go click it and
All right.
put your name in because I did it this time.
That's right. And if you want to be known, if you want to know, you want Tim to know who you voted for, put your name in there. There you go. And Tim will make sure that the name tab is in there too, right?
Yes.
Otherwise, we'll all chase you down.
Yes.
All right. Thus ends the Great Book War for
Which
October.
edition is that?
This is
third?
the third edition, I believe. This is the most updated one. Yep, third
It
edition.
may be a long book, but I think there's a lot of crossover between the systematic theology class and behind the pulpit listeners. So this might be it might be a good.
All right. What was there a systematic they were recommending in that class, or a specific one?
I think probably that's on the list. Jack would probably say Wonderful Works of God, but Ken might say Erickson. I don't
Yeah, okay.
remember which one there. I think Ken was also going through
Grudem.
But,
Grudem
yeah,
is probably the most popular one.
Erickson
but-
is great.
Yeah.
He's a good Baptist.
Yeah.
I got to see Erickson speak at the Evangelical Theological Society.
Is he a good speaker?
He was like, he's okay. He's,
Is he like a
He's a
preacher? Or is he
scholar.
like he's a scholar.
yeah,
Okay.
no, he's
That's
not a
better.
preacher, but he was talking about some complicated scientific concept of like, you know how there's 4 dimensions. He was like
Yes.
imagining that there's a 5th dimension and God is outside of our 4 dimensions. And
Yeah.
he was drawing
that's
this
part of the
this picture
philosophical theology stuff.
of like
yeah.
he had like a picture of like one of those Venturi tube things, and he was trying to explain to us in a scientific way how God was outside of time. That's his position.
Good.
He's an interesting dude. He's getting up there. He's in his 90s,
No,
I think. I don't.
Is he still
know-
alive?
I
thought
think
he
he's
passed
still
away.
alive.
He's
right?
still alive.
He's like old, but
have to
I
look it
think
up.
he's still hanging
Who
in.
is it?
He's old. I don't know.
Millard
If
Erickson.
he's still alive, he's in his 90s, I believe.
He's
yeah.
Googling it.
But he's a sharp guy.
He was born in 1932, so that means he's 93.
He
He
might
is
still,
still
be with
alive.
us.
93
He
years
is.
old.
All right. Well, maybe we need to get him on the podcast before he goes to be with the Lord.
Did you know he taught at the CB seminary over there in Oregon? Western?
Yeah, that's
Oh.
what I said. Western Seminary. Yep.
Okay.
So he's one of our guys. I still agree with most of his presuppositions.
We got like
in
a
here, so-
CB theme
yeah.
going on here.
There
we
we
got
go.
Denver and
Yep.
That's true. Denver was historically CB.
They were historically. No more though. No more.
What about what Western was historically CB, but probably
I think it
not
still
anymore?
is. I
Really?
think it still is.
No, I think they're still,
Oh.
but they're definitely more connected with CB than or Venture than Denver is. Yeah.
All I know is we get a discount if we go to Western, but we don't get anything with Denver.
No.
No, there's something with Denver too.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, they got them on the list.
Oh, never mind.
Still.
Sorry, I
I think there's
misspoke.
like a 20. I think it's 25%.
Fake news.
That was
Yeah.
30 years ago that they.
Yeah, but then
split.
Denver's already expensive, so it just kind of brings
Yeah.
it down a little bit.
I think we have a read here.
It used to be called like the
It
Conservative
was the
Baptist
Conservative
Theological
Baptist
Seminary
Theological Seminary
of
in
the
Denver.
West
Yeah.
or something.
And
90.
Vernon Grounds was quite a rabble rouser back in the day.
Yes,
They, of
it
course, were
was.
the ones that were teaching the post-tribulational rapture, which made them very liberal at the time. So, in the 50s.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. So, there we go. That is the Great Book War. The recommendations, vote. Next sponsor of our program. This is brought to you by Behind the Pulpit, by the Music Camp Vision Meeting. Music Camp has not been with us for a few years, and yet we
Look
are
at that
seeing
graphic.
the Ezekiel 38 Valley of Dry Bones vision meeting for Music
Hallelujah.
Camp. The dry bones will rise and the flesh will return in Music Camp. It's the resurrection, so to speak. The trumpet. Tim is blowing the trumpet over there.
Can these
Resurrect
bones
Music
live?
Camp.
You know, Lord.
That's right. There you go. So if you're interested in participating potentially in Music Camp, there's a vision meeting October the 26th. It doesn't say a time, so at some point on October is that
It
a
might
Sunday?
say on the webpage linked in the show
Okay,
notes.
go check out the webpage of the show notes. There at some point on October the 26th, there will be a vision meeting, and if you're interested in participating, go check it out. And they paid a lot of money to be sponsoring our show today.
I'll pitch it like this. Music Camp, I remember it as the best part of my childhood.
Whoa!
Millington Baptist Church Music Camp
Well, you got to go to the vision meeting
is
now.
the best
There you
part of
go.
my childhood.
I think they paid you to say that, though.
They
Tim.
did not. They did not. I've been wringing necks trying to get this thing back for years, so this is big for me.
A lot of people were choked to get this back in the thing. All right. Okay. So let's move on to our next segment. We got some audience questions today. Man, we made a big push last week for audience questions, and you came through. We got there was two questions we combined into one,
but one was
and
so
we got a
long
second one.
and
So
good that we had to cut it down. For our
so we got
slot.
2 questions today. All right, Pastor Dave, these are focusing on your passage.
Oh, okay.
Be a nice segue into the sermon discussion here. First question comes in from Clint, I believe. It's in Isaiah 10:33. God's justice is pictured like an axe cutting down trees. Remember you made a big deal about those trees getting cut down, Pastor Dave?
I do.
Here it is. Which reminded me of John the Baptist's warning, the axe is laid to the root of the tree. Did John intentionally draw from Isaiah's imagery? And more broadly, there are many tree references in Scripture. Psalm 1 being an example, trees by streams of water to the trees in Eden. Are they all theologically connected to the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil, or are the trees simply used as a recurring analogy for God's work in human flourishing?
That was an abridged version.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the question was longer than that, but that's the heart of the question right here. Do you have any initial thoughts on this, Pastor Dave?
Yeah.
Having studied this passage?
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of trees in the Bible. When we did the Cultivating the Christian Life workbook, we had an entire couple sections about how many different trees are in the Bible. And there's some connectedness to the imagery. I don't know that it's they're always talking about the same thing. But I would say a tree is a common image for like a nation or even an exalted king that is getting cut back. So we see that like in the book of Daniel, or we see that in a couple other places. Was John specifically referring to Isaiah? I think Isaiah is commonly being thought about and alluded to and sometimes directly quoted by the New Testament authors all the time. So perhaps what I will say is the image is the same. So you have like a nation, Assyria, that's being pictured as a cut down forest. And then John the Baptist is actually talking about the nation of Israel and how they're about to be judged by God based on what's about to happen in the first century. And so we know everything that happened in AD 70 and all that stuff. I will say this. When I was studying this chunk of Isaiah 1 through 12, what struck me is the chapter that talks about the vineyard, chapter 5. So chapter 5 has this song of the vineyard, and God like chooses a piece of land, clears out the rocks, plants this vineyard, and then he takes care of it, and then he has to judge it. I do think that's directly being talked about when Jesus told the story about in the New Testament, there's a parable about how the owner had a vineyard and the people were supposed to take care of it. It was supposed to have fruit, and then the son comes and then they kill the son. I do think that is a direct allusion or parallel that's going on in Jesus's mind. So he's certainly thinking about Isaiah. Was John thinking about Isaiah? I don't see why that couldn't be the case. As far as going back to the Garden of Eden and those other trees, I don't know if we're exactly connecting to those images, but we do have a resident scholar on the program today. Chris is here.
What do you think about the trees,
And
Chris?
First of all, can humans and trees become intermixed?
That's right.
And like
See, wasn't that what
Is there
all the trees were
transhumanism?
Is that called like a wood nymph?
Yeah.
Like the Ents, you know?
Like the ends.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, wasn't that
Personification.
Tolkien's point, though, was fighting against the industrialization
I
of
think,
was a
England?
beautiful
I think
image.
that was part of the point
Like-
with the Ents.
Right, the Saruman and the orcs were representing the technology of the age, and the Ents were pushing against that and the purity of the garden. Yeah.
Yeah. Are we? We're still on that question.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
do you
really
see
well,
any
Dave.
connection to the
You
Garden
see-
of Eden trees,
Well, actually,
though?
let me put this. How would you grade Dave's answer?
I'd give him an A. I
right.
thought that was really good.
Look at that.
Yeah.
What about the Garden of Eden stuff?
Yeah, I think maybe sometimes what called to my mind when with the Garden of Eden stuff is, Bible Project has done a lot of great summary videos and biblical theology theme videos, and Tim Mackey seems to always make a Garden of Eden connection, and sometimes it's a little stretched. So I don't know if I would necessarily go that far in this particular example without maybe some more direct connections as far as the Garden of Eden. It does also make me think of the cross. The cross is talked of a tree, And in many ways, Christ himself allows himself to be cut down in order to achieve our redemption.
Cut off. There you go.
And so I think that's kind of an interesting thing to think about as well.
Yeah, I mean, what is a cross if it's not a tree that's been stripped completely of all of its leaves and all of its branches, and there it is, so he takes our judgment. He takes the axe on our behalf. That's the beauty of the gospel. So, hey, thank you very much. That was a cool question. Who was that, Clint?
That was Clint.
Good question.
And Emily, I believe.
Mr. Pompey.
They were bringing it, man. They also thanked us for our series on biblical justice. So, hey, lots of things are happening.
Very cool.
Sorry we had to cut
Good
down and summarize your question. We had to fit on the slide.
Right.
But it was
All
a
right.
very good
Second question. The second question. Still in Isaiah 11. Isaiah 11, 2-3 mentions that the Messiah has the spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord, and his delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. What is meant by this fear? The son would not dread or be scared of the Father. If it is meant to be reverence or awe, then why would English translations use the word fear, which brings to mind fright, dread, or being scared? Especially challenging in this regard is how his delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. So I was mentioning to Chris before he came in, I think this concept, the fear of the Lord, which is especially often mentioned in the Old Testament, is a hard concept for people to get, and how it can be a positive and something that we should aspire towards. So what would you say as this relates to Isaiah 11, 2-3?
I would say there's a little too much push in our culture to make Jesus into our friendly best friend, that we forget that that's actually a very significant friend to have. This is the omnipotent, omniscient God of the universe, and a healthy respect and a healthy awe is good to have. So Jesus is the perfect divine son, as the one who was human, who lived the life we should have lived and came in our place and was the second Adam. He lived his life in such a way that he had a healthy fear of the Lord. And so that was, I think, a perfect fulfillment of that verse in Isaiah. In the book of Exodus, I was trying to look this up real quick. The word yare, or fear, there is actually used in the same verse in two different ways. Okay, I found it. So it says this in Exodus 20:20. Do not fear, for God has come to test you, so that the fear of him may be before you. So here it's like, well, which one is it, Moses? Do you want us to be afraid or not be afraid? So I think, there's a way in which we don't have to be afraid, in the sense that we're terrified and we think that God's going to, come get us. But then there's another sense that we're supposed to be treating God with a healthy reverence and respect because of who he is. He is, as Isaiah 6 tells us, he's holy, holy, holy. So remember when we met with Rabbi Mendy, and he was explaining in Ecclesiastes chapter 12 that the culmination of Solomon's book there is that, like, this is the end of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments. And he was explaining that in that way, it was a very similar concept to, like, loving your spouse. It was I want
fear
to
treat... It's like setting them apart, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I've used it as an illustration. Like, would be horrified to do something that would hurt my wife.
But also you were saying
the fear of it hurting my wife is why I don't do something that would hurt her. On the other hand, as we were saying beforehand, God is so other too. I think there's so much, in many ways, modern theology is trying to make God more accessible by making him kind of more smaller and relatable, and then forgetting his infinite qualities, the ways in which he is not like us, the attributes of God that we do not share, that are utterly distinct, that belong to God alone and are not shared with humans. And I think in that sense, it might be better to think about in comparison to fear of man. Like that the fear of the Lord is what keeps me from people-pleasing. It keeps me from seeking approval of people in a sinful way. And so as much as, we're nervous about it being the big, angry God in the sky, I think is the concern. The other part is to think, well, we don't want to be afraid of people. And the fear of the Lord is something that protects me from that. That makes me, I want to honor God above all else.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the other thing I would add in to tie back to Isaiah 6, which you highlighted as the central chapter in the first 12 chapters, there is this amazing scene of Isaiah coming before this holy God where even the seraphim have to cover their eyes.
Yeah.
We tend to forget that God is holy, holy, holy. And if you had encountered that scene, you probably would have had a healthy fear of that God who is.
Isn't the Exodus text that's in the people get a vision of God, and then in Exodus 24, if I remember correctly, and then they say, Moses, talk to him for us. We can't be before that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's also the sense of like when
you go.
When Moses goes before the mountain, he can't even catch a glimpse of God's glory. God has to cover his.
But the interesting part is it's not that God doesn't want to reveal himself. He does want to reveal himself, but when he reveals himself in his full glory, the people freak. Like, they freak out.
You know, Erickson talks about, instead of using the terminology of like communicable attributes versus incommunicable attributes, he says it's the goodness of God and greatness of God. So in the section that's like the greatness of God, those are those attributes that God has that we do not have, that we cannot relate to.
Yeah.
So we can be loving and we can be merciful and we can be just and stuff like that, but we cannot be holy. We cannot be, omniscient, omnipotent.
Yes.
Those are things that they're other.
Omnipotent.
Yeah, we're not that.
And most of them are stated in the negative too. They're all because they're a quality we do not have. So by definition, we can't know what it's like to be infinite or immutable,
right?
Or it's escaping me, but
yeah, I know what you're saying. Aseity.
Yes, thank you.
There's a famous story about the disciples in the boat and they're afraid that they're going to drown, and then Jesus actually stills the storm, and they were afraid at first of the storm, and then after Jesus stills the storm, it says, and then they were very much afraid after they found out, okay, who's in the boat with us? There's like mega phobia going on when we recognize just the power of who God is. And I think that's an okay thing to be aware of, that God is a being that we should be feared in a reverent way. Good question. Thank you guys for always pouring in helpful questions. And now that we have Chris on the show, hopefully that was a very satisfying answer. Because
there you go.
We have
what's your email, Chris? Because if anybody has
third
complaints,
mind.
they're going to email you at willowglenbiblechurch.com.
we got a three-headed monster here today.
We got it going on. All right. Well, before we dive into the sermon recap, we have another sponsor who would like to get in on the action today.
It's their last
chance. This episode of Behind the Pulpit is sponsored by Trunk or Treat, which is coming up this coming Saturday, October the 18th, from 3 to 5 p.m. There's also VIP access for children with special needs starting at 2:30 p.m. If you're watching this on a computer screen, you can scan that QR code and you can go sign up to come and be part of us. The event is free, but they are sponsoring our show, and so we're getting dividends from Trunk or Treat. So mark your calendar. We hope to see you out this coming Saturday, 3 to 5. Trunk or Treat, Trunk or Treat. Trunk or Treat loves Behind the Pulpit. Behind the Pulpit loves Trunk or Treat. All right, now we've come to our sermon recap segment of this episode, and we got some stuff to talk about here, Pastor Dave. You covered a lot of ground in your sermon on Sunday, so why don't you give us the 60-second flyover, if that's possible, and then we're going to talk about how there was a chart sighting in your message.
Number 3.
There it is, right there. Boom.
I can't remember what I was numbering, but there was.
Are you doing that, or is that like a
probably the 3 movements?
A gang?
It was towards the beginning.
Gang sign right there. Part of the 3.
You were summarizing the
Trinity. The Trinity.
Yeah.
something.
Isaiah 11 was my assignment. I decided to tack on chapter 12 because I feel like it was part of it. It's all about the culmination of this Messiah's reign, and Isaiah's been hinting at it here and there, but I think it came to full flower in chapter 11 as he now describes when this coming son of David comes as the sprout that's going to come out of the stump. He's going to reign in a kingdom that will be, number one, bringing justice for the vulnerable and for the poor. He will be characterized by perfect justice and the marginalized. Number 2, he will bring complete peace on earth, not just between human beings and nations, but also even the animal kingdom. And then 3rd, he will regather his people back to himself, and even the nations, it says, will come to him like a signal, like a banner, and he will bring the whole world together. And then when that happens, there's this grateful response of praise and worship that occurs in Isaiah chapter 12. So it's a wonderful passage of hope. It's a wonderful passage of something that we look forward to. And I was thinking about this yesterday, even though we keep getting disappointed with like elected leaders or world leaders or the people that, you know, are in charge, and they don't bring us the kind of hope and peace that we were hoping for, longing for, we keep hoping, we keep wanting someone to come and make this right. And I wonder, like, where did that come from? We've had nothing but abysmal failures in the history of humankind, but we keep on thinking, but the next person's going to bring it in. And I got to think that's some kind of like memory trace that inside of us, God has placed inside of us a desire, a burning longing for, there's going to be somebody who's going to come and they're going to make it right. And that's only going to be satisfied by the great Messiah, Jesus, who is going to one day bring in his kingdom. So that's what Isaiah 11 and 12 were all about. Little Tim Mackey exit there.
There you go. And that's what it's all about. Boom. All right. So, Chris, did you have any questions for Dave? I have some written down here, but I'm going to let you have first shot since you're on the show today. Well, how did it strike you? What was the first?
It was
first word
good.
that comes to mind?
I thought it was good. I was impressed with the amount of ground that you covered. I don't know if you met your 5-minute mark though.
Probably more than 5, right?
Yeah, probably.
He said 5, and I lost.
His summary of the first 12 chapters.
It was a symbolic 5-minute goal.
Yeah, it's good.
Kind of like the Theology Sprint here on the show.
So.
When I say 5 minutes, I
It wasn't
mean,
a literal 5 minutes. It was a symbolic
I liked
5
how
minutes.
you.
it's like when my wife is getting ready to go on a date and she's like, I'll be ready in 5 minutes. It was like that.
It's that kind of 5
Yeah.
minutes.
Okay.
It's a preacher 5 minutes.
Who was counting? And
Yeah.
If you were watching, looking at your watch, something's wrong with you. You got a heart issue right there.
I had a... So, okay, the thing about the 5 minutes,
That's
I
true.
really debated even doing that. It wasn't like homiletical, but we've been skipping around, and Isaiah 1 to 12 is like something that I had trouble figuring out. It's like, here's some poetry, and then it goes to prose, and here's like present tense fulfillment. Now we're into the distant future, and then here's like a shot of heaven with... What's going on here? So I actually wanted to map it out myself and then, you know, convey that to our people so that when they open up like Isaiah 4, they say, "Oh, here's what's going on in this part of the Bible." So
It was
that
good.
was my
your
purpose
teaching
there.
pause was good.
All right.
I
You let
liked
people
it.
know. You
Just
let,
law.
you let people know what was coming.
Yeah.
So they could have taken a break and come back in, or
Well, and you made
It's a good time to like use the restroom.
Yeah, it's
Stretch
you know
your
like use
legs.
this. I don't remember what the phrase was. I'm sorry, but and then you tied it in with this gets repeated later on, and how this is all united. And
Yeah, it was like the anger of the Lord is
Yes.
still
thank you.
not yet past. And so finally in chapter 12, that anger had passed. Yeah.
all right. So here's my question for you: as I was watching. By the way, do we have the chart? Since we had a chart sighting, is it not, Tim doesn't have it to put it up. Tim,
Can I send it to you?
can insert it later.
Is it too late
We had
for
a
that?
chart sighting, man.
So I'll insert it later.
He'll insert it right here. Boom. There's the chart.
All right, I'll send it
All
to
right.
you.
So while the chart's up
I was
there,
pretty proud of
hopefully-
this.
You were, and it was a wonderful chart. I did enjoy.
Look at it.
I did enjoy looking
amazing.
at it. Look, it's right
It's
there.
colorful. I went with the
Yeah.
like the incremental building this time. I didn't put the whole chart.
I noticed you made.
I didn't want to overwhelm
you
anybody.
made chapter 6 the cornerstone, which I was very excited about. I saw that.
I thought you'd like that.
So my question is,
this
what
chart.
what strikes you, having done all the building blocks here? What strikes you as the most profound thing in Isaiah 1 to 12? What jumped out at you as the pinnacle?
You know, I think the fact that our God is going to glorify himself in salvation through judgment is a very difficult message to accept, but a very beautiful message to accept. And then I didn't really get to talk about this that much, but to think about the fact that Isaiah was picturing the future for the nation of Israel and then the Messiah coming on the scene and taking it as his mission to live out this story as the new and greater Israel, and then himself being the chosen one of God, going through ruin and then rising from the dead, and in a sense like taking that 3-part plot line and then living it out as the Messiah was a very profound beautiful moment. I didn't really get a chance to talk about it in the sermon, but you asked me like what struck me. I'm like, well, the fact that Jesus just redid Israel's story in his own life was really like kind of blew
this
my
kind of
mind.
this three-part idea of what Tim Mackey was getting at, right? Which is and he's not necessarily the only one that's done that. I think it's Greg Beale has that kind of the judgment idea, the cycles, and Jim Hamilton has that salvation through judgment is a common theme with which you thread the biblical story together. It's kind of a repeated thing that happens over and over again, and Isaiah being a mini version of that. My other question was Isaiah 11:2, where you have the Spirit of the Lord resting upon him, which obviously brings to mind the Spirit coming down, resting on Jesus at his baptism. And then you have the Spirit of wisdom and counsel and knowledge. And my question was, does that have a connection with Isaiah 9, 6, and 7 that we covered last week? And are these elements of the kingdom that he's coming to bring?
There's some overlap in the Hebrew words that are used, such as the Spirit of might, and he's called the mighty God. I think Isaiah 9 talks about more, who this person is going to be, the wonderful counselor. I think the word counselor there might be some overlap in chapter 11. The thing that I was thinking about with regards to the sevenfold Spirit is this is new information. So in chapter 9, we don't really hear about the Spirit. It's more just this is the son of David, and he will be a child and a son, and the government will be on his shoulder. But then in chapter 11, we're given this Spirit anointing piece of information.
Is it the Spirit coming to empower the Son?
Yeah. So there's a Trinitarian effort going on there. If you ever read the book He Who Gives Life by the guy at Trinity, Cole, he actually says that before Messiah was the giver of the Spirit, he's the bearer of the Spirit, and he traces the Spirit's work in the milestones of Jesus's life. So his virgin birth, there was a Spirit element. There was a Spirit as his baptism. Everybody knows about that one. The Spirit was there at his temptation. The Spirit was there empowering him for ministry. The Spirit was there in his miracles. The Spirit was there. The cross is the hardest one, I think, for him to find. But I think there's a verse in Hebrews or something that talks about how the atonement was somehow the Spirit played a role in it. I'm not remembering, but there's a verse in Hebrews about that. And then, of course, the Spirit was there in the resurrection, and then the Spirit was there, of course, on Pentecost when he poured it out for all of us. So the Spirit played a significant role in the entire career of the Messiah, and you're missing something if you don't see that as Jesus's life is played out in the gospel story.
Yeah,
so,
certainly.
And Isaiah 11 predicts it.
Isaiah 61:1, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, and he's anointed me to go and preach good. So, and that's the verse that Jesus reads as he begins his public ministry. So, good observations there. So, I want to bring us back to last fall, and you said you want to talk about this.
So Hebrews 9:14. How much more then will the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself unblemished to God, cleanse our consciences? So even there, it's a Trinitarian work happening in our salvation. So
inseparable operations.
Yeah.
So.
To call to Chris here, I remember one time we were talking while we were still students at Denver, and we were talking about the Trinitarian concepts. And I remember this conversation being about how a lot of times we attribute certain elements to the wrong person of the Trinity. And that sometimes we pray to the Son when we should be focusing on the Father, or to the Spirit.
Or we thank the Father for dying on the cross.
We shouldn't be thanking the Father for dying on the cross. It's the Son, right? So it's good to get the persons of the Trinity correct in terms of the economy and what they're doing.
It's critical.
Yeah.
And so Isaiah 11:2, I think, gives us a little taste. In the Old Testament, I think the Spirit was more known to come upon these leaders, like the Spirit comes upon the judges, and the Spirit comes upon the kings, and it's like the anointing oil image. So in that way, the word Messiah, Mashiach, is like the anointing, the one who has the anointing of God. So the Spirit will be upon him, and he certainly was.
It's true. Speaking of, we didn't do any recaps of House of David, Pastor Dave.
Oh, where are we?
Well,
did another episode drop?
Dropped last night. I didn't get to watch it yet, but did you watch the first two?
I did.
All right. What did you think about the battle with the Philistines?
It was much longer than I thought.
It was the whole show. Episode.
Yeah. And there was a lot of stuff in there that didn't happen in the Bible. So I'm like,
Well, that wasn't mentioned in the Bible. We
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Another giant shows up and like rescues Achish, and it was neat. It was like creative, but I'm like, man, they're going way off script here.
My daughter has been watching with us and then wanted to listen to more 1st and 2nd Samuel, and I was struck by what a central role Achish plays in 1st and 2nd Samuel. Like, he's there the whole time.
Yes.
If you remember later on, David goes and fights with him.
And I'm glad about that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they have chosen a character that's playing him well, and they're giving him, he's not flat. He's got, we're interested to see what will happen to Achish.
Yeah.
We don't normally hear like that much about Achish in sermons and stuff like that. So,
because he does eventually, at the end, that final battle with Saul dies, and Achish, I guess, wins. Anyway, side note. Okay, so let's talk about the verses 7 and 8 of chapter 11, where that sort of brings us back to the millennial debates we had last fall with, Revelation, and then you had the whole regathering of Israel piece. So let's talk a little bit about those verses. I guess 7 to 12. What are we to make of these and these different concepts?
the regathering
and the millennium. Like you said, 7 and 8 is sort of a tacit call to the millennium and what's going to happen. Is there going to be a physical rebirth of things that are happening here on Earth? Will this world be remade?
Yeah, like with animals and stuff.
Yeah, well, I thought you were starting to get into that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's different views on that. So is Isaiah talking about something that's very literal with actual animals getting along in ways that they don't get along now? Some people see it that way. I tend to lean that way. That's probably more of a premillennial view. I guess in the amillennial view, you could see that as new heavens and new earth, right? Mm-hmm. Or post-millennial, I guess you could see that as I guess any view could have literal animals doing that. Yeah. Never mind. So,
well, my friend Rob Barker, when I was on the panel with him last year, saw that as new creation light.
New creation light.
I said kind of like the millennium, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, but other people take that to be more like symbolic. So Isaiah's using this imagery to talk about peace on earth. I don't know. Do you guys have an opinion about the animals and the imagery there? Have you thought about that? Have you studied it?
I have.
Well, it's more prominent in 65 and 66, but it's mentioned here too. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I probably would lean to not be too literal with it.
All right, good. We got an opposing view here today.
Yeah, I think that'd be a little bit. I think I'm taking it as it is communicating peace. It's hard to imagine a lion that's not a predator, and I think my question, for a more literal view would be, was there something wrong with the way God made a lion to be? Or is really the problem is human sin? It's not necessarily. It just begs the question of to what extent has sin corrupted creation itself, or if there's nothing wrong with the lion made the way it is, and then what does that mean for the new heavens and the new earth? Are we not going to have predators anymore? Because it makes me think of the end of Job, when God confronts him and he talks about the behemoth and the leviathan, and he basically is communicating, I made creation wild. And there's something important to learn about the fact that he made creation wild. And so if that's an intrinsic good, then why would that be something that's removed in the new heavens and new earth? I don't, but those are my questions. I don't really have an answer. I do think that we tend to flatten out the new heavens and the new earth like it's going to be all perfect, and we're not going to have, sports anymore or something like that, because that involves competition. Golf. Yeah, we'll definitely have golf. And I kind of wonder, what the promise is that there won't be sin, and it's very difficult for us to imagine what many normal human activities will look like without the presence of sin. Like I like to win. I don't play board games with my family that I can't win at. And then that means we don't play board games because they don't want to play board games that they always lose at. So, but like, what is it going to be like to do something that we do for the competitive fun, and then there's no competition? Like, will we participate in these activities in a way that we can enjoy it for the activity itself, which I think is basically what is going to happen. Like, I think, so in the animal kingdom, to what extent are the things that they do that is natural and good that God intrinsically created will just continue to happen? It's the challenge is death. There's going to be no death. There's going to be no need for sacrifices. So, you know, that would be the pushback.
Yeah,
to what I said.
That's what I was going to ask you about.
Yep.
So are we going to have like dying stuff in the new heavens and new earth?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. I don't think we'll have dying stuff.
I was teaching this in adult education one time, and they said, where are we going to get our meat?
Yeah, right. No, that's a good question. Like, what if there's going to be meat?
Is there meat?
Meat imagery is used in Isaiah, I think, specifically.
It is.
So I think that's where you go philosophically. There are moral evils and natural evils. And so the evil that Scripture's talking about being removed, is it just the moral evil?
So do you know what some people say about that?
What would they say?
You don't need death to have meat. Like Jesus fed 5,000 people with fish without killing anything.
Sure.
So maybe, we'll have replicators like Star Trek The Next Generation.
This is fun stuff to talk about, but I have no dog in the fight.
Literally.
At the end of the day.
Literal dog?
No dog.
No, not yet. My dog is still alive. It's not in doggy heaven yet.
Would you eat your dog if you were hungry?
What's your view on your dog making it to the other side?
Ooh, we've gotten that question a couple
be
times.
Like, no, come on. But now that I have a dog and I love the dog, and every dog owner friend I have,
standpoint
all dogs go to heaven,
say they cry like they've never cried before when their dog dies, and it makes me think that there is something to be said if heaven's going to be all that Scripture seems to promise that it will have those things that we have enjoyed here, but even more deeply, because they'll be without all the broken, sinful part of it. So I look forward to a dog that is perfectly obeying and
there you go.
You know,
doesn't scratch up my house.
Here's a couple little views. I just did little chat GPT. So the lions and wolves and lambs and stuff like that. If you are going to want to follow Augustine, he saw the peace between animals as symbolizing reconciliation among former enemies. Calvin sees this as a metaphor for peace and harmony among those people who are transformed by Christ. B.B. Warfield, Voss, Klein, Hoekma, Kim Riddlebarger sees this as describing the spread of the gospel and the spiritual reign of Christ right now. Wow. John Calvin, Isaiah 11:6. The picture of universal peace is not zoological but moral. And then you have Edwards, Hodge, and these guys saying this is an imagery of formerly hostile peoples living at peace through the transforming power of the gospel in history.
So are we talking about the Israel-Gaza thing is right here?
Yeah, like that.
Boom.
So it could be that, and then there's the more literal folks, Alec Motyer. I'm referring to his commentary on Isaiah quite a bit. He says this is more like actual peace among animals. So I always kind of lean that way, but I do want to just say a lot of good Christians see that differently, and they deserve respect, and we should maybe think about some other views and how else the text might be interpreted. Whatever we're saying, when the Messiah comes, it will be a beautiful reign of peace.
Mm-hmm. Good. Well, why don't we finish with the regathering of Israel, because you promised you'd talk about that. Okay. So let's talk about the views there.
All right. So the second section, Isaiah 11, 10 through 16, or 11 through 16, depending upon where you divide it, talks about some sort of regathering and a return. And there's three basic views. So view number one is we're talking about the return that happened under Ezra and Nehemiah. This fits the historical context of Isaiah's settings. The language parallels a lot of the post-exilic texts in Isaiah 1, Nehemiah 1, and he says a second time specifically. And so if you count 1 and 2, first being the Exodus, this would be the second time, which is the regathering that happened in the Bible. Like this was already fulfilled. The cons of that view are that the geographic scope are not exact. So he mentions Egypt, Assyria, Cush, Elam, Shinar, Hamath. That's exceeding the Babylonian return. So most of the Jews came back from Babylon, period, full stop. Not like the four corners of the earth, north, south, east, west. So we're in a little bit of a different territory. The second thing is like the conditions were not as ideal. Isaiah 11 seems to be talking about this future like time of peace, and we're certainly not there in Ezra and Nehemiah. And the main problem I had with it was like the Davidic ruler's not there. So, you know, in Isaiah 11, we're talking about the shoot that comes up from the stump, and the fact that he's there means that like that's why this stuff all comes together. And he's certainly not there under Ezra and Nehemiah. He doesn't come till 400 years later. But a lot of people think this, including Bob and I's like pretty much go-to commentary by John Oswald. He says this is like the historic fulfillment under Babylon, but he also says it could be a typological fulfillment for something later, like an antitype for
a near far.
Why not both and?
Okay, that's view 4. Hold on. So that's view 1. View 2, that's also Reverend Childs. Okay, so view 2.
It's a good Denver Seminary answer.
Yeah.
How about everything?
Yeah, exactly. A bunch of fence riders on this panel here today. All right. View 2 is this. Spiritual view, the church view, fulfillment in Christ in the church. This happened in Acts chapter 2. The strongest evidence for this is not just that John Calvin said this, but in Romans 15:12, Paul literally quotes Isaiah 11, verse 10, applying it to the Gentiles in the church age as part of their inclusion. So if the scripture in Romans 15 is your authority, then you have to say, then, at least in some sense, this is getting fulfilled in the days of Paul. And he's seeing this regathering happen before his eyes, and the nations are coming to Christ. So that's a reputable view. Pentecost has like all these nations that are named there. Then they're coming to Jerusalem, and then they're exploding out into the world. So that's Calvin.
This guy wants to eat you, Pastor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hungry.
He looks safe. He looks pretty calm.
He's not safe, but he's good.
Yeah. So we also been reading Barry Webb. I know some of you are reading Barry Webb.
Nice.
Bible Speaks Today. He takes this view.
It's a good one, man.
Okay. Third view. You guys bored? You guys all right? Can I go
going.
again? All right. Third view, eschatological end times regathering view. This is the view that says this is a later prophecy. This is, happening at the end of the world. There will be like a great revival amongst the Jewish people, a national day of repentance, that kind of thing. And Paul alludes to something like that happening in Romans 11 when all Israel will be saved and they'll be regathered back to the land. Most dispensationalists would take it this way. Some people say even in the late 1800s, early 1900s, the Zionist movement was like moving towards this thing, bringing the modern state of Israel to its inception in 1948. And here we are like watching prophecy unfold before our eyes. I think that's probably taking this a little bit too far. We don't know exactly that that's happening. Dispensationalists speak in terms that are a little bit too certain sometimes, and I can say that as somebody who went to Dallas. So I think we should be careful about that. But it is a reputable view. We have Charles Feinberg, we have John Wolverd, John Oswalt, again, with the nuance there that this could be talking about something in the future as well. So that could be something later in the future. And then there's Chris's view, which is why not everything. So the synthetic view.
Oh, they call it synthetic.
The synthetic view.
Not to be
view
confused
number 4.
with fake. Just to be clear, we're talking about
it's a Silicon Valley view.
Synthesizing the views together. Yeah.
So this is kind of the already not yet. It's kind of the both and approach. The already sense is that, hey, Christ is the root of Jesse. He has gathered together the spiritual remnant of Israel, and the nations are coming to part of his kingdom. He is the banner. He is the signal. He is the Messiah that we are all waiting for. That's the already. And then the not yet part is God will one day also bring about a future incoming wave of Jewish people to Christ as part of the hope of Romans 11. So those are the three and a half views. There's 4 views. Those are the 4 views of the regathering in Isaiah 11. What do you think?
Half a point, Chris.
What's your view? I want to hear from you. I want to know. Like, make a comment. What's your view and why?
That's right.
Why do you think
we don't want just questions? We want comments.
Why do you
build this
think
algorithm.
that? Why do you think that? Convince me. Convince me of your view. I'd love to hear from you.
Prove them wrong.
Yeah.
So which one did you lean towards?
Oh.
All right. Well, he doesn't know, so convince Pastor Dave what the right answer is.
You know,
There
these
go.
all are tough. These are tough
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
I feel like being dogmatic about this is not a hill I want to die on.
All right.
I can see a lot of truth in each of these.
Okay. We'll go with that.
I'm probably frustrating everyone with
So
that.
there you go.
Sorry.
So you're kind of a both and with all the. So it could be. Why not all of them? Why not all? Of
Why
them?
not? Yeah. What's the
Well, that's
matter with
why
that?
I like those answers
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the hard part is when you get the devil's in the details and you start trying to work out how you make sense and put all the pieces together, and then those views start having a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So sometimes the other ones are cleaner, easier to understand.
People like black and white, not gray.
That's true.
That's what I kind of like.
That's true.
Yeah. All right. Good. Well, thank you for preaching. Next week we're gonna catapult all the way to chapter 25. So you're gonna have a lot of reading in between.
It's going to be a serious
these two.
5-minute catch-up recap.
It is. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to take us through chapter 13 to 24 and
It's
get
a
us to
symbolic
25.
5 minutes, Tim.
Yeah.
It is. It is. It is. We'll figure it out.
I got an idea for you there.
We'll figure it out. All right, so that's that. We have one final sponsor of our show today, so let's get to it. Our final sponsor of the show today is the Senior Lunch. If you are a senior, I'll let you define that for yourself, or if you identify as a senior.
No, they say it's sponsored by the seniors, but they tell you that anyone can come.
Okay, so anybody who identifies as a senior can indeed attend the Senior Lunch. There's lots of good food. You can gobble it up, and there's going to be a wonderful presentation. I forget what it is. Do you know, Pastor Dave, who's presenting?
Dr. Funk on food.
That's right, Dr. Funk. Dr. Funk on food will be there today. Right?
Carol Funk is going to do a cooking presentation about the beauty of the spiritual nature of cooking and how that's a blessing from God.
There we go. So you don't want to miss this, especially if you like to eat. The Senior Lunch is for you. And they love Behind the Pulpit. And Behind the Pulpit, we will enjoy the Senior Lunch this week, I think.
Yes.
All right. Boom. All right. Now it's on to the Theology Sprint. Here you go. Chris, this is what ChatGPT came up. Tim put in 2 pictures of us. Go back to that so he can take a look at that.
Oh, I gotta look.
So here's me, and there's Dave. I always am just. Can we get a new picture with him not looking like he's gonna go beat somebody up?
He has the fear of the Lord.
He is putting the.
Bob's like, can we lighten up here, Dave, or not? Can we have some fun on this podcast or not? Why do we have to be so serious all the time, Dave?
So what we do is Tim or Noah usually give us a question. We do have some more ground rules this year, though. We can veto it. We can go to another question, but they will throw out a question that we have to answer on the spot. Boom. And ideally 60 seconds, although with Dave, it's usually a symbolic 60 seconds. So let's talk about that.
All right, are you guys ready for
let's see what
today's
we got.
question?
Let's see what we got.
I'm mad and long-winded.
If
It's a great combination.
put that on a T-shirt. All right.
That's going to be next on our store. Make sure you put the Millington
Bob's
logo on
lost it right
Pastor
there.
it. You can
Dave.
make that a sticker.
Pastor Dave. He's mad and long-winded. All right.
That's a good title for this podcast.
If Jews today sincerely pray to the God of the Old Testament, to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, does God still hear their prayers and accept their worship, even though they don't believe in Jesus as the Messiah?
Whew. That's a good question for N.T. Wright. What do you think?
You know, there's a couple people that are on TBN that actually answer this question wrongly that frustrate the heck out of me. No. So the entire New Testament, the gospel story, all of the epistles, the entire missionary movement of the first century was about teaching the Jews that the Messiah had come and that apart from him, there is no hope. Yes, we love the Jewish people, but they come into the church the same way that we come into the church, through faith in Jesus Christ, through repentance, and through honoring the Son. Now, if someone is Jewish and truly seeking the Lord and truly wanting to honor him with their lives, then I believe that that God will honor that, and God will reveal himself fully to that person. But only until they accept the Son are they really part of God's kingdom. So, we are Trinitarian, so we worship God, but the question is, who is God? So if you don't worship the Father, Son, and Spirit, then we don't worship the same God. And so I think we have to understand that in the New Testament, the culmination of all of God's revelation is in the person of Jesus Christ. And that's the greatest news in all of the world, for the Jew first and then for the Gentile. But we all come into the kingdom through the cross. And Jesus was Jewish, the disciples were Jewish, and the Apostle Paul was Jewish. And their main message to everybody is there is no hope unless you accept our great Jewish Messiah, the root and the shoot from Jesse.
The root, the shoot, and the tree.
Yeah.
Who died on the tree
Yeah.
to save us.
Did that come across too harsh? I don't mean to sound
Hey,
harsh with that.
that was
Depending
good.
who you are.
That was
Yes.
good.
Do you guys want to soften that at all?
No.
I think maybe the
Chris
only
would.
thing I would say is the question kind of, first off, it's the same as speculating about what about somebody who's never heard about Jesus. So theologically, I put it in the same category as that. There does need to be explicit knowledge about Christ in order to know him in a saving way. I think the only other thing about it is to say, is someone asking, does someone have enough information if they only had the Old Testament in order to know Christ? And so on the one hand, I want to say, well, there's continuity there, but there's a lot of open questions that the New Testament answers with respect to things that the Old Testament pointed to, alluded to, but didn't give the full revelation, because we have the full revelation in Christ. So maybe I would build up to your answer.
I wish I would have started there. That's a better place to start. I came in a little hot.
Yeah.
So,
I
But you
understand.
would also agree they need to know Jesus in order to be saved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. I think the only way, the way this question was once asked while we were in seminary that tripped me up was, what about Jews that were faithful in the first century and the gospel hadn't come out to them yet? Like, that push, it's still the same hypothetical believer type of situation. But that kind of tripped me up to say, oh yeah, that seems odd that one day they're good and the next day they're not. Like, at the end of the day, God's just. He's going to sort it out. Everybody comes through Christ. So
We will leave it in the hands of the sovereignty of the Lord.
the judge of all the earth will do what is right.
that's right.
Amen. The just and the justifier. All right. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us today, Chris.
Thanks for
We'll have
having
to
me.
we'll have to have you fly from California over to here more often.
Yeah, no, thank you.
We
Thanks
should
for-
go over there.
Yeah.
We should. Yeah. Are you doing the thing in San Diego?
Well,
Yeah.
well,
Not that he's
well.
anywhere close to San Diego.
Oh,
but-
I
Yes,
might
or-
be.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a thing called Didasco seminars where you get together with a bunch of other pastors and go through a book of the Bible. They're going through Ezekiel down in San Diego next June.
Who's leading that?
Tim Mackey.
Oh.
And I was thinking about going, but Bob won't come with me.
It's not that I wouldn't. I just can't. I can't. I want to stay married, so I gotta.
I'll go with you.
That's a good answer, Bob.
All right,
go.
Tim, let's do it. We'll visit Chris.
All right. Awesome.
How far is that from San Jose?
It's a ways.
It's
really
pretty far.
far.
It's like
Pretty
going
far.
to
Nowhere
Florida.
near that. Oh, my word. Okay, never mind.
It's like 8 hours.
All right. Well, hey, you know what?
Florida.
Thanks for joining us for Behind the Pulpit today. If you want to be a sponsor, write into Tim. Maybe we can get you a spot on the show. We
Yes.
hope to see you back next week, October the 20th. We'll be right here, same bad time, same bad channel, on Behind the Pulpit. Go read some Christian theology this week.